The United Nations General Assembly, which just concluded, was not only an opportunity for powerful leaders to make speeches, it was also a chance for small countries to make themselves heard at the UN. We sat down with the leaders of Sierra Leone as well as Antigua and Barbuda. Plus, a US politician talks about how cities are battling climate change. Hello, I'm Anand, Naidoo, and this is The Heat. Reform of the United Nations Security Council is discussed every year at the General Assembly. During his speech, Sierra Leone President Julius Maada called for a permanent seat for Africa. While in New York, I asked President Bio about his message and top priorities.
Well, a commitment to global issues and the need for multilateral approach to some of these very difficult challenges that we are having around the world.
Well, we just heard from President Trump earlier this week in which he rejected the idea of multilateralism, the idea of globalization, talking more in terms of nationalism. What did you make of that?
By the very nature of the challenges we have, we cannot deal with them at the national levels. We have to make sure we work in concert with other nations around the world. We are too interconnected a world today to want to deal with issues on a national basis. For instance, the climate change is one thing that we cannot deal with at all at the national level. We must work it together. Terrorism, another menace to society, we cannot deal with at the national level. We have to work together. And because of technology, we are so interconnected today that to want to act individually as countries is just not going to work.
If we look at something like climate change, there's been a big focus on climate change at this General Assembly this year. In fact, the Secretary General held a summit on climate change on the sidelines of the Assembly. How does it impact a country like Sierra Leone?
Oh, we are the third most vulnerable country to the effects of climate change. 2 years ago, we had a serious mudslide in which nearly 1,000 people lost their lives. We have flash flood. We have, even this year, we have serious incidents of flooding around. And erratic weather patterns, we are beginning to notice that. We notice that there is global warming. We can feel it. So for us, and we are really not the ones that have created the situation. Right. Yes, we are just being victims. So we want to work with those, in as much as some of them are unwilling, but those who are willing, we are going to work with, because these are global challenges that need global solution and not individual country solutions.
You know, you're not the first leader that has expressed that sentiment. We heard it from other leaders from developing countries as well, that it's not the developing countries that are primarily responsible for what is happening insofar as the climate is concerned. Developed countries need to take responsibility for this. Are you seeing that?
Yes, that's why it surprises us a lot from the LDCs to see any country wanting to renege on that responsibility. We all know that the global warming is as a result of activities of the most industrialized states. We are only, being victims of their activities. They've used coal before. They are the greatest polluters, and therefore they should take responsibility. But I think global leadership is lacking on this. Should any country want to suggest that we deal with them nationally, that is, I think, reneging on responsibility.
What do you make of the Paris Accords and the manner in which it's being implemented?
Well, I think it's a good beginning to deal with climate change. But I think we have to show commitment and change those commitments from words to action, and make sure that there are means to monitor and evaluate how far we are going towards the goals. But it is something that we have to definitely keep.
I want to talk about your relationship with China. How would you characterize that relationship?
We have had a great relationship with China from time immemorial, and that relationship is just gotten better.
But you have been critical of the relationship. At one time you called the relationship, or you called Chinese development proposals or plans in Sierra Leone a sham.
Um, we are critical friends.
Yeah.
I think we should be ready to say to our friends when we think this is not in my national interest. We are there to protect our people, to secure their interest. And when I think and I believe that a particular deal is not in the best interest of my people, I can say to my best friend, I don't want this.
So what is the nature of the relationship right now in terms of trade, investment and economic relations?
Very good. As a matter of fact, we just had a very senior Politburo member visit Sierra Leone. And we are a small nation, but China counts on us as one of the friends we've had. We have different facets of cooperation with China. Some of the most iconic buildings we have in Sierra Leone were built by the Chinese. So it's not a new relationship. It's a very old relationship, but we cannot renege on now. We can't just throw it, because of what other people are saying. We value that relationship.
How do you see the relationship evolve over the next few years, maybe the next few decades?
While everybody is now talking about investment and business, there is no more free money for least developed countries. So what we have to do is to set up a system, institutionalize means by which we can evaluate project by project whatever any country in the world brings or investor brings to our country, to make sure it is in the best interest of our country. So we are looking at more trade, more investment. We want to see how we can also take charge of our own resources. We should have a better say in how it is used.
As you pointed out a moment ago, the world is now an interconnected world. We see globalization throughout the world. Yet there is, we hear it from the American president, President Trump, and in his speech he was talking of nationalism. He was talking about national sovereignty. Does that concern you?
Well, I think I believe that multilateralism is the best way to go now. We cannot afford again to divide nations. We are too interconnected. But everybody is entitled to their opinion. But as a leader of a very small country, I think we shouldn't renege on global issues. We need other people, other countries that have the capacity and gravitas to take leadership and to tell and show the way that we have to stay together as a world. It is not possible. You can say it, but you cannot divide the world anymore.
One of those issues that you talk about is the trade war that's currently taking place right now between the United States and China. How does it impact a country?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We are being told to liberalize, we are being told to open, we are being told to allow things to flow. So if those who should take the way, those who've been teachers are now reneging on the very things that they say we should do, it's unfortunate.
We heard here at the United Nations from the International Trade Center saying that we're going through fraught times right now, very volatile times as far as international trade is concerned. There is a downward trajectory on international trade, which is aggravated, exacerbated by the trade war. How concerned are you about that?
We are definitely concerned because this is an interconnected world. So whatever happens in one part definitely affects the others. So that is the more reason why we should stay the course on multilateral approach to all issues. We are concerned, but what can we do? When two giants are fighting, I think a mouse should just keep as far away as possible. And we are a small nation, but we always express our views about what we think the moral obligation should be. We look up to them to provide leadership, and where leadership is not there, then there is uncertainty in the world today because leadership is lacking at the moment.
What are your domestic priorities in Sierra Leone?
Human capital development. We all talk about sustainable development, the SDGs, the goals. But what we have done is to look at how we are situated on the development ladder, and we have chosen human capital development, which means health security, quality education, and food security. We believe that if those can be achieved, it will provide a platform, a very solid foundation for us to achieve the other SDGs. So we have prioritized that, and that is where we are putting more of our money, attention, and resources.
There is one social issue which you yourself has addressed in Sierra Leone, and that is the rape issue in the country. You've called it a national emergency. What is being done about that?
Quite a lot is being done about it. I declared a national emergency on rape. It's not just a Sierra Leone problem. Others are keeping quiet. But as a father of, as a father, and also as the father of the nation, I decided not to keep quiet about it. It is unacceptably high, and we have to take action. That we have a law now, and we are putting in place the institutions to make sure that those who rape, are convicted of rape, can go to prison for the rest of their life. It had gotten so worse that they were even raping babies, I call them, 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, destroying the rest of their life. I think that is inhumane to do that to any child in the world. And when it gets to that point, I think there has to be a drastic action, and that was what spurred me into that action.
Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Anand Naidoo. If you enjoy the thoughtful, engaged discussions you see on The Heat, you may also want to subscribe to our podcast. It's appropriately titled The Heat. Twice a week we take a deep dive on world headlines, talking to experts, journalists and others. It's a fresh, focused and intimate look at the issues that matter most. Whether it's the Hong Kong riots, the latest Middle East conflict, or US politics, the Heat podcast gives the clear context needed to understand both what's going on and why. And what's best, we come to you. Whether you're at home or on the go, you can find the Heat podcast just about anywhere podcasts are found. Just search the Heat CGTN. Have a listen today and subscribe. Thanks.